Well, greetings everyone, and welcome back to the Bond Geek channel. I am, of course, your host. I am Henry, and joined with me today is a very, very dear friend of mine, Paul from Eleventy. Paul, welcome to the channel finally.
Hello, mate. You're right. It's nice to be here, actually. It's nice that somebody else is pushing all the buttons rather than me having to do it all. It's nice.
Yeah, fair enough. But say, Paul, I'm really, really happy that you could be here today because, as some of you have probably seen on the title for this video, this is a for maybe some Bond fans, it might be a bit like, why should I watch this? Why should I watch this? But you know what? I think it's actually a very interesting topic because, yes, everyone knows I'm the Bond geek. I'm a Bond fan. I love that. Paul, would it be fair to say not really a fan of the Bond series, really?
Sort of 50-50, you know. It has bits that I like, it has elements that I do like, and it has elements that I absolutely hate, loathe.
And see, that's why I think it's great, because when you've got two people of sort of like opposing sides, just having a great conversation about stuff, great things happen. Sadly, something I think that's missing in today's modern world is where people who have different opinions can actually just chat and be respectful of one another.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, everything's so polarized now. So this should be some good rage bait for your fans. They can also comments.
Do you know, not many people in the Bond community are actually very much into that. We're very much very civilized, very sort of, very much open to other people's opinions and respectful stuff. I guarantee you're probably gonna get lots of comments on here just saying, yeah, fair enough, I respect your opinion on that. Thanks for actually participating in this video. Guarantee you probably will.
Yeah, well, that remains to be seen. We'll see. Depends how ranty I get with it, I suppose.
Well, as always, before we get started, can I just ask, if you haven't already, do click the subscribe button down below. Don't forget to also like the video. It really, really help us, because I hope to get Paul on the channel again in the future. So if you do like it, that will make me sort of think, yep, you definitely want to see Paul again as much as I do.
That's never happening.
Oh, it will. Now, Paul, I mean, I'm going to start off with, I want to sort of give you the floor and the microphone here, so to speak. If you could sum up for you yourself your feelings overall and history with the Bond series, I think that'd be a great place to start off.
Yeah, okay. Well, Bond was always a laughing stock in my family. When I was growing up, it was the era of Roger Moore, which to me is just the absolute epitome of how bad Bond can be. I hated the Roger Moore era and the stupid jokes, the corniness. My parents used to just laugh at it if it was on TV. They'd watch sort of half an hour of it and just laugh and take the piss out of it. So as a young kid growing up watching that, it was just laughing stock material. It's a shame because there's some good elements in it, but the Roger Moore is definitely the worst for me. And since then, I've tried to like Bond. I've tried, but there's some good moments, and then it usually gets ruined by something absolutely ridiculous. And that pretty much sums up the way I feel about Bond.
No, I mean, again, that's very great sort of opening thing about it. I mean, let's just stick with Roger Moore for a moment here. Obviously, I did a couple of reviews. One was For Your Eyes Only. I think I did that one on your channel.
Yeah, you have done a few. Yeah. It might have been.
And I remember just your comments about it, and there's just all of us there at the time just laughing about it, or you go, oh my god, and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But I mean, for us Bond fans, I'm speaking for myself here. I mean, when I was a kid, Roger Moore was the great sort of entry point for Bond because it was a bit more child friendly, even though there was some more adult stuff to it. But you can't deny that the quips, that man is just the king of quips and one-liners on John. It's legendary, the stuff he came out with. It's brilliant.
I think the problem I have with it most is, you're probably right, the actual dialogue, the actual writing wasn't that bad. It was just the delivery I found. It was just awful.
Can you?
Roger Moore, he has a bit of a sort of a smug kind of smirk on his face all the time, unfortunately. And I don't dislike Roger Moore, right? But it was just the attitude he had, and the timing just never seemed right. The jokes didn't quite land. It was just kind of cringe, just like dad jokes. It's just like, oh god, my flesh. I just wanted to sort of climb out of my skin, just awful. And even that a kid, just like my parents are laughing. I'm looking at it, and I don't quite understand what's going on here. Sorry, that's my alarm going off.
Yes, fair enough. Fair enough. Indeed. No, I love your comment here about dad jokes. Can I just ask, sort of a follow on from that? A lot of us in the Bond community say, like, the first film we watch, our introduction to Bond, really does define it. I think that's very adamant here with you. Like, your introduction was through Roger Moore, and that sort of made you either like or dislike it.
Terrible. Yeah.
By any chance, do you remember the first film you saw in the franchise?
It would have had Jaws in it.
Okay, so was Spy Who Loved Me or Moonraker? Did he go into space in it?
I think it was The Spy Who Loved Me, because that's in the Egyptian pyramids, isn't it? I think it's some part of Egypt anyway. Yeah. So it would have been The Spy Who Loved Me then, because I remember him biting through the metal cable.
That gave me nightmares as a kid. That's honestly, honestly, Paul, I had nightmares after watching Spy Who Loved Me the first time. I had nightmares of literally Jaws as a character was just constantly chasing me. It was terrifying.
I just thought it was quite cool to have metal teeth. It's one of the bits I did like about that.
No, I mean, again, a lot of people see like Spy Who Loved Me as Roger's best. The great mixture of like the seriousness and the goofiness sort of combined there. You know what? Just keeping on just Roger Moore here, I can't resist this because I love talking about you. When you got to review Roger Moore in A View to a Kill, his 57-year-old James Bond in that film, as I said to you, and I said on my channel, Roger Moore was truly the first expendable, not Sylvester Stallone.
See, I quite like
View to a Kill.
I really did like View to a Kill because of the soundtrack. Tanya Roberts is fitter than a butcher's dog, and Roger Moore wasn't in it that much.
That's for sure.
It wasn't a bad film. It was all right.
I know. I mean, again, I'm sorry. For me, just I find it so interesting. That is your introduction to it. I know so many others in like the community out there like grew up on the Roger Moore ones as well. And that's got them into it. Obviously, had a bit of a negative alternate sort of thing to you.
I can't imagine anyone. Well, actually, no. We both know a friend of mine who comes on my channel occasionally. His introduction was also through Roger Moore, but he considers himself a fairly big Bond fan. But then he's a bit weird. So.
When he thinks Lawrence of Arabia is a Christmas film, I remember.
Because it happened to be on one Christmas.
Sorry, everyone. That is an in-joke between me and Paul. It's just that one will never get old for us. Sorry. No, bringing it back to Bond, just here. For me, obviously, Roger Moore, I loved him as a kid. As a grown-up, I actually saw how different he played the role in every different movie. I think he had quite a bit of subtle depth to it. But you did mention in there, even though I know you said, let me try to phrase it actually. You did mention earlier on there are some good bits in the whole of the Bond franchise, bits that actually you do like. I'm sure we'll go into more negatives down the line, but I'm actually just quite interested what you would consider like the positives overall.
I kind of regret I said that now because I'm struggling to think. I quite like I did quite like the introduction of technology, although that again they're a bit corny. I like the idea, I suppose. I like the idea of this kind of MI5, MI6 spy just kind of infiltrating things and stopping stuff. The overall premise of Bond is actually fairly good, and I think that's what I quite like about it. And I think every time I watch a Bond film, I'm kind of rooting for it to be good and for me to enjoy it. So for me, I think it is the overall premise of him being this spy that's traveling all over the world and stuff, and foiling plots and terrorist plots and things like that. I think the books I really quite like. I know we're talking about films predominantly here, but I've only read 1.5 books, but the Casino Royale, I actually really enjoyed that. I really liked that book. I think towards the end, with all the love stuff, dragged on a bit, but generally it was pretty good. And then I started reading Live and Let Die, and that was quite good as well. I need to get around to finishing it. The premise, I think, is good. I like the premise. Also, I've got to give respect to the fact it's been running for 60 years plus.
Oh, yeah. I know. I mean, fair play to that. I mean, I think one of the criticisms, even in the Bond community, we have with the series, has been sometimes it going like maybe too far over the top. We enjoy it from time to time. You know, there's like Die Another Day with Invisible Car and kite surfing a tsunami.
Yeah.
You know,
I
even
can't
we
swear
criticize that
on.
Bond sometimes can just go a bit fantasy element. Have you found that like a massive turn off, or as a
Yeah.
casual sort of fan, have you been like, actually, those are the bits I remember the most?
No, they're usually the most ridiculous. I mean, I do remember them. I think, what was that one where Pierce Brosnan was on that tidal wave?
Yeah,
With
kite surfing, tsunami, Die Another Day.
yeah, I mean, what was that? I can't swear on this chat, so
No.
I've got to really, really, I'm struggling. But that was just awful. That
Then
was,
again, there's been like the Moonraker going into space, and
yeah, I mean, that was, yeah, it's all effing ridiculous. um, but I think one that gets me is the Tarzan swing. What was that? Octopussy, wasn't it?
Octopussy, yeah.
Oh, you know, someone reminded me the other day that Chewbacca also did that in Return of the Jedi
Hmm.
when they were swinging through the
I have
Endor
to watch
forest.
Return again.
Yeah, when he's swinging through Endor forest, he did a one of those Tarzan yells. So it must have been a thing in the 80s. Maybe there was a revival of Tarzan or something. But that bit in Octopussy, yeah, I can't stand that stuff. Another one that springs to mind is some of the names of the female characters. Was it Christmas Jones or something?
Yeah, that's well done enough. I mean, Fleming did have some names himself, like were a bit, you know, there's obviously Honey Rider, Dr. No, you've got Tiffany Case, you know,
But
you
they're
have
almost believable names. They're almost believable. But Christmas Jones, I mean,
it sounds very Flemingish, really, I think, sort of the thing he would come up with.
Don't know. I mean, I think the picture was they wanted to cast Denise Richards because she was popular at the time. You got a load of blokes sat in an office circle jerking, going, "Oh, great it would be to have her in it. Oh, let's come up with a stupid name." Just
Yeah.
it seems childish, you know.
A little bit, but I think it's part of the fantasy, whether you buy into it or not. I suppose I think the next thing I want to talk to you about, and I'd like to get your opinion on again, the iconography and like the symbols of the Bond franchise are like so sacred to us. It's like we get so excited when we see the gun barrel when it is at the beginning of the movie. The tile sequence we love. We love seeing the next Aston Martin, the gadgets, the you know, the My Name is Bond, James Bond, you know, all those like great iconic things. All of us, you know, go, yes, we all do in our own little way. We get excited when we know that bit's coming. I mean, you know, for you, do you think like, yeah, I respect that? Or it's just like, come on, it's just a bit, you know, what is the point?
I do respect it if you're a fan of that stuff, but from an outsider looking in, it's just repetitive. I appreciate you've got to cling on to some things for nostalgia's sake, and you make a rod for your own back with these things, don't you? If you do it once, you do it twice, then you've got to do it forever. The gun barrel thing, it doesn't really make any sense because you got the gun barrel, you're looking through it, Bond walks in, he shoots the person, but you're not looking through, you'd be looking for a gun sight, not a barrel. And then the blood comes down over the screen on most of them, but it wouldn't. If you're looking for a gun barrel, that wouldn't happen, would it?
No.
I'm very pragmatic in that way, and none of it makes sense to me. I'm like, it's nonsense.
I mean, I'll be honest. I mean, all the Bond fans know, but it was actually created as a sort of fun way to open up the first Bond movie, and it sort of kept going and kept going. Now, like the whole gun barrel, like look of it and the blood down, you know, it's become like a symbol of the franchise. So it's you know, it's transcended. I think, you know, it's almost, I think, imperative. It's part of like. But I always say this: you wouldn't have a Pink Panther movie without the Pink Panther theme. You wouldn't have like you know, you wouldn't have Star Wars without the Star Wars theme or lights or some sort of lightsaber or that sort of thing. You wouldn't have James Bond without his theme and that gun barrel to a degree.
Yeah, true. Yeah, it's just a shame it doesn't make a great deal of sense when you really break it down. And you know, I mean, to think that that's your opening frames of a movie, immediately someone like me is thinking, well, that wouldn't happen. That wouldn't work that way. So immediately, I'm already, you know, ripping it apart.
That's fair enough. It's fair enough. That's the whole point. You say just two people chatting like the pros and cons of it, and I get it. I think the next thing I want to go, and I know a lot of people who are watching this video will probably want me to ask, so I'm going to ask it now. Could you've obviously seen all the Bond movies. I know you have 6 actors to play Bond in the official franchise. Could you like break down for me your thoughts and feelings about all 6 of them? Starting from Sean, George, Roger, Tim, Pierce, and Daniel.
Yeah, I'm glad you reminded me because I can't.
That's why I
Right,
just
okay.
quickly put it in.
Well, I think Sean Connery kind of, well, he's the first, and obviously yeah. I mean, he's the first guy to do it. He sets the stage. He's the benchmark that everyone has to reach, I guess.
Hmm.
Um, I quite liked Sean Connery in the films, especially like the latter ones,
Yeah.
because he was annoyed with the contractual stuff going
Yeah.
on behind the scenes and all that kind of stuff. You can almost see it in his acting. He's like, God's sake, just get this over with. And I kind of like that. It came through. He was a little bit aggressive, a bit angry with it. And I thought, oh, good,
Yeah.
because if you was an MI5 agent having to deal with idiots all the time, you would get a bit aggressive and start smacking people about. I quite like that. George Lazenby, I think, was probably the biggest missed opportunity. If he could tone his ego down and not just sort of walk around like he owned the place, he may have had a very good run as Bond. Because
I agree on that one.
Yeah, I felt that he played the part well.
A lot of people do as well.
Sorry?
A lot in the Bond community, like, I've done like what ifs on the channel. A lot of people have said we would have loved to have seen if George actually had stayed on, what he could have achieved. Because we all know that George was basically told, be Sean Connery, don't play it your own way, be Sean Connery. And you can see in On Her Majesty, he's trying to put a little bit of his own sort of personality a bit into it, but he's sort of hindered by it. But a lot of people like saying, we would have loved to have seen him at least do like Diamonds Are Forever, maybe, certainly afterwards. Sorry, just had to come in there.
Yeah, that's fine. No, I agree. I think he should, if he could have just reeled in his massive ego and stopped being such a,
yeah,
he might have had a real good opportunity there. And I do believe that in later life, he has actually said that he wishes the whole thing would have been different. Apart from that bit, I think I've mentioned this to you before, and maybe in one of our reviews or conversations. Apart from that bit where he looked at the camera and said, well, the other guy wouldn't have put up with this or done that, or whatever it was he said, breaking the fourth wall, whatever they call it. That was a bad move. But generally, quite liked him. I quite like On Her Majesty's Secret Service as well. I think possibly that might even be my favourite Bond.
It's getting so much of a resurgence now. It's really beloved. I mean, Christopher Nolan's come out and said it's his favourite and all that stuff.
The reason why is because there's not a great deal of ridiculousness in that film.
It is literally, for the most part, the book put on screen. I mean, so if you were to read the book of that, you would be like, that really is just the film.
I will carry on and get to the next actors, but there's a particular part in the Majesty's Secret Service that makes me laugh every time.
That's good. I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, well, I would laugh because I've got kind of a sick, twisted sense of humour, and I think it's funny. But where all of the women are sat around that dinner table eating different dishes from what ethnicity they are from. I think you know which bit I'm referring to.
Everyone jokes about this. Everyone laughs at it. This
joke never fails to make me laugh. It's hilarious.
Just a slight stiffness coming on. Everyone laughs their heads off at that.
Who's the next then?
Roger then. Which we sort of know your thoughts.
Well, Roger, yeah. I'm amazed the franchise survived after that. I mean, you've got these kind of semi-serious films with Sean Connery and then George Lazenby, and then Roger Moore comes along. He doesn't look like either of them. He doesn't look like Bond in the way the books describe him. And he comes along and makes all these cheap, ridiculous gags that make people kind of their flesh creep. And he comes across as being a lecherous old man. I'm amazed the franchise survived with him. I really am. So that's Roger Moore summed up.
All right, Dalton. Some people consider it the closest Ian Fleming's original creation. The one, again, wished he had more films under his belt. Oh my God, he was not appreciated enough in his time. Your thoughts?
I really, really liked his films. I didn't like the second one so much. The first one,
License to Kill.
Living Daylights, wasn't it? Was his first?
No, the first one's Living Daylights. Second one's License to Kill.
Right, License to Kill was okay, but I didn't really. He was starting to go off on a bit of a strange tangent. I felt that one, but Living Daylights, I really liked him in that. And I think I've mentioned before, possibly in even my own review of that film, was that right in the first sort of 10 minutes, they're in a room across the building where they're scoping out, and the agent that's with him comes in, turns the light on, and he berates him. He says, "Turn the light off, you idiot," or something like that. And it's like, oh, I like this Bond. He's got a bit of oomph about him. I like this. And
I think we're learning so much about you here. You just like people who tell other people off.
smack people in the head, yeah, like people smacking it. Well, no, I just like I like a bit of seriousness, a bit of respect for the kind of context of which Bond is in. That's the other thing I didn't get, like the Roger Moore era, and it was also Pierce Brosnan era. Let's segue to that.
Yeah.
So the Pierce Brosnan to me was Roger Moore 2.0, with the stupid gags and the kind of strange looks at women. Again, it was a little bit creepy in places and stuff, and there's no respect for the context. You know, if you're getting shot at by Russians with AK-47s and you're trying to drive your way out there and there's things blowing up and stuff, you wouldn't make a quick, sly gag to the woman sat next to you in the car who's screaming and in fear for her life. There's no respect for the context. I like a bit of seriousness in my films, and I think that's probably where Bond general goes wrong for me.
And then Craig?
It's not bad, but it's kind of coming into the realms of generic action hero, I think. I think the fact that he doesn't look like the archetypical Bond character as well. Yeah, why? I understand you've got to try and change things and mix it up a little bit, and because it's also a bit of a sort of like teenage rebellious streak, isn't it? It's like, oh, let's just cast a blonde guy. It'd be fun, wouldn't it? Why not just stick with the theme all the way through, with dark hair and tall and?
I mean, there's so much really to unpack there. I think I'll start off with that thing. From what we've understood, Barbara always had her eyes on him playing Bond one day. She thought he was a terrific actor. And to be fair, I actually think Daniel Craig is a terrific actor, not only in his Bond, but in other roles he's played out his entire career. I think I remember, I've said this on the channel, and I'll hand up admit it. When they announced him as Bond, I was intrigued. I was like, why doesn't he not look like James Bond? I was like, James Bond's not blonde. I was part of that group. Not gonna lie, saw the first teaser trailer for Casino Royale, blew my mind, thought, actually, this guy could be really, really amazing. And the film, for me, turned out to that. It's one of the things, just going back to Pierce here, I'm a bit biased, I will always admit, because, Pierce Brosnan is my James Bond. I grew up with him. He always wanted to be a more sort of serious, still serious Bond, but allow that sort of dark humor of what Connery did to come in. I think it's a perfect example of that. If you look at his first two films, Goldeneye and Tomorrow Never Dies, they get the balance right of him being like basically a cold-hearted B-word with the sort of, the fun dark humor. And I think, honestly, unfortunately, Was Not Enough and Die Another Day sort of transformed him more into the Roger Moore style, which people, I think, have that lasting memory of. But if you look at his performances in the first two, it is quite different to the second two. I mean, again, I'm biased. I'm always admitting that, with Brosnan. I can admit that about him, but he's still, I think, the best Bond ever. He just will always be to me.
Which film was it where there was like a French actress playing
The World's Not Enough.
That's it.
But the one thing I'll always say, give me the moment.
Go on.
The one thing I'll say about Daniel Craig, a lot of people say like he's the one who tried to make Bond more human, and he did to a degree. But I think people underestimate it's actually Brosnan. It was Dalton and Brosnan that started that, really trying to make him more human and like have emotions and like show he is just human. He's not like a Superman, And I think Craig gets all the glory for it. Did you notice that in those two, Dalton and Brosnan, like trying to be more human, like show you, I can damage my arm, I have feelings, I get angry, I get all that.
Well, stuff. Dalton especially, because he was just throwing his toys out the pram, wasn't he? In those two films that he was in. But it was done, I felt, quite well, because he just went and got on with it. He got angry, he got revenge, and sorted things out. Because I felt like with Daniel Craig, it was kind of pouty, kind of sulky, almost a bit emo in place.
Oh, you're not alone. You're not alone. There's a lot of people who say like Craig is the depressed Bond. Like you've literally got this amazing, like all the girls, the cars, and all like, I'm so upset. It is a joke that goes round.
I suppose you could argue that's true to life though, because how many people do we see in media and stuff that get pretty much everything they want, but yet they're still bloody miserable.
I think, do you know what? Finishing after that, again, I think my listeners and my viewers would be interested in hearing your thoughts of this as like a general public sort of person when it comes to James Bond. James Bond dying in No Time to Die. Obviously it's something that's much debated still to this day, much talked about, people on both sides of it. I'd love to just hear, like, as not much of a Bond fan yourself, just when you saw that, how did you feel about it?
Well, ultimately, I didn't really feel much at all. I thought it was a bit odd, I suppose. I guess I've got question as to why. I mean, that's one of my biggest thing is that why, where'd you go from there? What are they going to do? It leaves them with only one option, really, is to go back and retcon stuff or go back and do new films based before that event. It's just a bit of an odd choice, I think. I can't say I feel perplexed by it. I don't quite understand who thought that was a good idea.
I think it was like the intention going into this, like, right, we're going to like end Daniel Craig's era of James Bond, this alternate, verse which he started Casino Royale with the death of Bond, and that's the way I saw it myself. This was the death of Daniel Craig's James Bond, not James Bond the character. Like, you saw his origin of Casino to his death in No Time to Die, a sort of like life saga, if you will. I know a lot of people say, like, the franchise over, but to me, after I saw the film, I thought, okay, fair enough. They're just going to do a hard reboot again, like they did with Casino Royale, just like new timeline, new actor, maybe even go back to the original timeline. I don't know, and just have Daniel Craig's 5 films as its own little sort of small thing. But yeah, I think again, you talked about it. Let's talk about the future, because I know you and me have chatted about this a lot, and I've said on this channel many times I'm a fan of this idea of taking Bond back to like either the 50s or 60s. You could tell great stories, even with things touching on things that are happening in the modern day with technology or global warming, whatever. You can put it in a 60s setting and still be as relevant and as interesting. And I think it's an interesting place to take Bond. Or you could just carry on Bond in the modern day, just start a new actor, off you go, standalone adventures again. There's so many different things you could do. Paul, as a general fan, what would excite you to maybe think, actually, I will go watch the next James Bond, potentially?
Well, you and I have spoke previously about sort of the 1950s, trying to sort of reboot it from the 1950s. That definitely would interest me. But I'd want, I think I've said this before, I want the proper 1950s. I don't want any of this watered down woke nonsense we get now. I want proper 1950s attitudes of the day, that type of stuff. I want to take it right back. That would be fantastic. That would get me excited. I would think, okay, let's give this a shot. Let's give this a new, fresh pair of eyes. I think we kind of came to that conclusion independently at the same time, because I think I was thinking it, and I think I mentioned it in one of my reviews, and then I think I saw one of your reviews, and you also mentioned it. I was like, okay, so there's more than one person thinking this.
Oh no, there is a few in the community who actually are very much open to the idea, like more like back to the 60s, potentially, because of the nostalgia, and just it takes away some of the issues like the over, so much technology around, or things like that, and you can just do different things. I mean, I don't think it's going to happen, but I think it would be interesting.
I mean, imagine what a challenge that would be for like modern day screenwriters and stuff to think as if you were in the 1950s. I mean, what a challenge that would be. That'd be quite interesting.
I think it would be really interesting. I mean, Paul, I'm sort of going to end this on these 2 questions. I ask it to everyone just out of pure interest. I know even people who are not a fan of the franchise always still have an opinion on this. From your knowledge of actors and directors, who would you like to see as the next James Bond, and who would you like to maybe see directing?
Can you imagine a Ridley Scott Bond?
I think that'd be really cool.
His movies are kind of. Can we dig people up from the past?
No, I want to keep it to like people who actually could legitimately direct Bond 26.
Yeah, throw it past Ridley Scott's desk. See what he's got to do. That'd be interesting.
And who would you say would you love to, like, if you, the Barbara and Michael come to you saying, Paul, we can't decide. We need you to decide the next actor to play James Bond to lead us forward. You are our only hope. Who is it?
Now, I could win some fans here. I'm going to say Henry Cavill.
Yeah.
I generally like that guy in most things that he's done. And I just think he could pull it off. And I think he actually would like to do it too. And I think that would be, and also he's got the dark hair. He's tall, broad-shouldered, built. You know, he carries. He kind of goes back. That Henry Cavill, Ridley Scott directing in a 1950s environment. Go right back to the beginning.
That sounds really exciting to me. I'm not gonna lie. Have you So I know it's the next thing. Have you seen the Henry Cavill spy film, The Man from U.N.C.L.E.? Yeah,
I haven't yet. No, you've mentioned that before, and it's on my watch list, but I haven't got around to watching it yet.
because I think you're literally going to look at it and going, "Oh my god, I finally got my spy film. This is my definitive spy film."
Yeah, but see, then I recently reviewed Ibcris File with Harry Palmer and Michael Caine in that. I like the way that he deals with it all.
Do you know he was a contender for Bond at one point?
Yeah, I have read that, but then everyone has been, and I mean, I'm sure me and you get called up at some point and get off.
Oh no, they're eyeing me up for a villain.
I can't see you being a villain, Henry.
Just don't like white cats. That's the problem. See, if I was an actor, I would so want to be a villain more. You get all the best lines, you get all the fun.
Yeah, and a bit more challenging, I would have thought. You know, because you've got to try and be a complete, more of a challenge, I think, because it's so easy to sort of be humanized and actually empathize with people and stuff, but to be a complete evil, be a challenge, be fun.
Absolutely. Paul, I mean, that's really the end of it for now. I really just want to say thank you so much for coming on the channel, for giving us your opinions, your perspective on things. I think that's just really exciting, and we need more of that actually in the fandom to have like these really great conversations. Before we go, can you please I'm begging you, just tell everyone about your channel and how all your content. It's really amazing.
Okay, well, initially started off as just me and a couple of friends doing it during the lockdown. We started reviewing movies. It's then evolved since then. Live streams. I'm always evolving the output as well. So I kind of changed my tact a lot recently. I put out shorts once a week that people tend to like. We do go a bit in depth sometimes, and there is definitely 100% more swearing on my channel than there is on this one. And that's definitely a selling factor. That's the USP, I think.
Yeah. Everyone, you see it on his shirt there. It's 11T8. Go find it on YouTube. It's a really great channel. Really, really great stuff. Great merch as well. Paul, thank you so much for coming on today. Really appreciate it.
Nice one. Cheers, mate. Thanks for having me on. It's nice to be on somebody else's channel for a change.
Yeah. And everyone, as always, my name's Henry Stevens. I'm the Bond Geek. Goodbye.